evening, everyone. So we're going to talk about ownership and priorities. As we all know, like ownership is the most powerful tool a leader can have, right? So whether it is ownership about just the outcomes or ownership about the decisions, the processes, the entire system that goes through before reaching the outcome. So to begin the discussion, I would like to ask each one of you, like, what ownership means to you?
One word, I think it's accountability. That's the keyword if I have to just put it across. And of course comes a lot of responsibility because you own up to to do a particular task, whether it is your personal life or whether it's your professional life. So I think it's a quite responsible word in my mind. That's it.
So two things with ownership. One is the buck stops at me, and the other one is that ownership gives you a very powerful feeling. So it's a double-edged sword. You're getting that power because you're an owner, and you also have that responsibility, the risk, everything else that comes with it, to say that the buck stops at me. And at every level in the organization, if people start thinking that way, I think quality, quantity, etc., productivity, all of that will just go into multifold. So that's what ownership is for me.
Thank you. I started thinking about this word right now. I had never thought deeply like that earlier. I think to me, ownership comes up with the chaos may be around you, but then you are responsible to find a way out and steer the ship. So you own the ship, basically, is where I felt ownership is.
So if everybody thinks that everybody is doing what they are supposed to do, nobody ends up doing it. And therefore, it's important that one person needs to own it up. So I think that responsibility of kind of owning a responsibility of a action of few people, or you as an individual also, the ownership, the ability to lead, and the kind of the way you kind of align everything to make sure the goods are delivered is, I think, ownership.
Yeah, for me, in an organization context, ownership is do what it takes to make things successful. Do whatever it takes. It's not a question of what your role is and within a defined realm. No, if you have to go above and beyond to find things that are not happening, which are necessary for the organization, yes, go ahead and do it. Just so that because it is needed.
So this is one word on which I have had a lot of deliberation with my husband. Okay, he happens to be a leadership coach, and he always tells me what is ownership, and so yeah, I'll give you my 2 cents on that. After all the research and my thoughtfulness, and my mind has opened a little bit now, and I think ownership is actually a mindset, right? So it's a mindset where you get invested into things, right? So you have a responsibility, you will take accountability because it's a responsibility, you are responsible for it, and hence you are accountable for the outcome as well. You will do it because you have to do it. But ownership is when you put in your all into it. Like people said, take charge of it, you're leading it, you think that it is your own, you are sailing that boat as the captain, right? Even if you're not the captain of the boat, right? So that's what ownership is in my mind.
Beautiful, beautiful. So in the US Navy SEAL, there is this captain, Jocko Willink, who wrote a book about it. And once this US Navy SEAL, they were on a mission, it failed. He went to his subordinate and he said, tell me what I could have done differently, right? So he was not there to blame or to hold somebody else accountable for the failure. It is mainly ownership. Basically, you own the things when it doesn't go right, and you give credit to your team members or subordinate when things go correct, and when things failing, you own it, right? And similarly, we have in Amazon, they say leaders are owners. So you never say that that's not my job, right? You basically own what is going on. And all of your perspectives, I completely align with that, what is ownership? Now comes the question, how does ownership get affected when the priorities keep shifting? In these changing times, customer needs are changing, customer mindset is changing, the available market shift is very dynamic. Every day some new products are coming, new needs are coming. In this changing dynamic environment, when the priorities are shifting, how does ownership gets affected? This is the question, like, I would like to hear your views on, and that's what most of the leaders are battling with.
Sure. It's a tricky one, let me admit that. But having said that, when you say it's a fast moving, changing environment where the goalpost keeps moving, I think even in the earlier session, I had a different perspective. It's all about, where you are at whatever accountable position you are, right? So if it is a mass operation and where you're going to touch the life of a lot of people, and yet there is a moving goalpost. I think when it comes to what kind of leaders, whatever is the direction which is being set by the leader, right? So based on that, as long as the awareness is there amongst the people, you can jointly own a particular task, which means that as a business owner, I want to roll out a particular aspect, but in this rolling out a particular aspect or a product, if I create co-owners, right? So it's all about setting that context, sharing that vision, saying that what is it that we want to go about, and I believe in such kind of an environment. I'll give you some real life examples. There's and especially in a sales operations or in organizations where you have a corporate head office and then you have the regional offices. So there's a glass door, and there is typically that New Yorker thought, right? There's no world outside New York. So that's where there has always been a conflict of interest, saying that the corporate office saying that this is what needs to be done, and the same conference room will be occupied by another team, and they feel this needs to be done. Now both has to be executed by somebody who is in the regional office, right? So now they are all owners, right? So now what do you prioritize? 1, 2, and who's supposed to decide? And these are real life challenges and these are good keywords, by the way, like ownership, accountability, mindset, all of that. But when that rubber hits the road is when people realize, saying that this is what happens really in an environment of that nature. So I think what is important is that whenever the leader, business owner, whoever is the ultimate chain of decision, as long as they are able to put across and set that tone clearly, saying that it's going to be a moving goalpost from a region perspective, and thereby pass on that ownership, saying that what we typically call it as an adaptive way of looking at things, right? So you kind of change course based on what the wave would be hitting, right? So there is a high tide and there's a low tide. So one market will behave differently, the other market will behave differently. So there's no one size that fits all. So the way I would want to sum it up, if I am a business owner and I have a large operations and I have multiple goalposts and these are going to be variable in nature, I think it's all about how I pass the accountability or share the accountability with them, and I think there comes the ownership and responsibility of the respective team.
Yeah, I think he's summarized it really well and aptly. For me also, I believe that as an owner, it could have multiple meanings, but you hire people or you have people who advise you on different strategic initiatives, strategic things which are changing, the environment is changing. So you have the experts in each of these areas. Like for example, I'm no expert in IT, so I wouldn't be taking accountability of making decisions related to IT, but I would look to my IT head or my specialist there to help me make those decisions. So ownership can be shared, and the accountability, like he said, can be shared in large organizations. But then I also agree that in a smaller setup, it's a one-man army, right? So there's a lot of accountability. There's a lot of awareness that one person needs to have. And in a larger organization, we have the luxury of distributing that ownership and accountability. So honestly, my view, I mean, I don't have a hard and fast what's right, black and white view on this, but I do feel that, you know, how do they make strategic decisions? For me, in my sense, or in the environment that I'm in, I would look to my strategic leaders, I would look to, you know, the other people who bring in the expertise in specific fields to help me make those decisions, and of course the accountability ultimately lies with me. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on it.
For me, ownership of a vision depends on how that shared practice of making that feasible and in action is what I as a leader will do. And while doing it, not every time you will be actually heard, understood in first stroke. You need to keep on re-evaluating what you intended, what was expected, what are the outcomes, and with slow chiseling, you know, refine and redefine and bring it in front so that, you know, the people who you always win with a shared vision and shared accountability. So you own the accountability that this will be there, but then you need people to make it happen. And I think as a leader, you know, for me, the best part is whatever is the goalpost defined, I ensure that the stakeholders who are involved in executing that goalpost are aware of that. The victory is theirs, and the losses, there is someone who actually can take it up, and that's practically you. And the example you mentioned about the Navy SEAL, that the person having the guts and vulnerability to go and say, what I could have done differently. I think that's the mark of a good leader, as showing a sign of ownership, that it's not always that you have to win a particular thing. You know, certain times if the Edison not making the bulb light gives also an insight of why it didn't, you know, light, and then you use that factor to ensure it doesn't repeats, and that the cumulative knowledge for an organization grows. And you have to ensure that learnings are packed up so that next time we don't repeat that mistake. To me, that's the ownership. It's not the ownership of success. It's also ownership of failure, and that learning gets rubbed into your organization.
So, to me, ownership in this ever-evolving world, we don't live in a constant world, you know. So the world is evolving, environment is evolving, and so therefore there will be there won't be one, but there will be multiple times that the priorities of an organization will keep shifting, you know. I think it's the maturity of the team to understand and to explain. So I may be the CEO of an organization, but if my very small example, if my peon is not there or my office boy is not there, and I have to go and get tea for me and a guest who's come, it should not make the office boy feels insecure कि यार ये मेरा कहीं job ना ले ले. You know, so it's like overstepping into somebody's space and underperforming on what you're supposed to do. So if you don't deliver, somebody else will deliver. You know, similarly, to make my objective achieve, to achieve my objective at this point in time, it's important that it's performed now. And if that person is not there and I have ownership of the overall delivery, then I will do whatever it takes to deliver, you know. So I think that comes with maturity in an organization. It doesn't come, and that's where it's important that even if you try to do something which you are not supposed to do, have a dialogue with that person and tell him, yeah, I did this, but you know, the intention was to solve the problem at that point in time. If you were around it, I would have told you, but since you were not there, I just took the liberty to do it because for the larger good of our organization. So I think this clarity is very, very important.